Imagine looking at the world and amidst so many voices finding a profound silence about what truly matters. In Psalm 14, we are invited to understand God's perspective on humanity, a viewpoint that goes far beyond appearances and touches the essence of who we are. This psalm challenges common beliefs, confronts human pride, and reveals a clear warning. Living without God's presence is like walking on unstable ground. As you explore this text, you'll not only find an honest analysis of human nature, but also a guide for those seeking true peace. Want to discover how this divine perspective can transform your outlook on the world? There is a general consensus that David, the psalmist, authored Psalm 14. He is known for both his intimacy with God and his gift for expressing deep, complex emotions in his compositions. This psalm reflects David's ability to understand and convey human dilemmas, bringing spiritual truths to light amid challenging situations. Here he speaks earnestly about human behavior, particularly the folly of ignoring God's existence, a pattern he saw repeatedly in his experiences. At the time of writing Psalm 14, David faced a context of intense distrust and anguish, surrounded by those who showed disdain for faith and divine principles. He observed the corruption around him, the deceit and indifference of those who had strayed from God. These men preferred dark paths, directly confronting David's integrity as a dedicated servant who firmly clung to his faith. This turbulent setting only reinforced the power of trusting in God, who, though invisible to the eyes, was present in the psalmist's life. By expressing the sadness he felt in the face of dishonesty and cynicism around him, David allowed this psalm to be a mirror of the disappointments he experienced with people. He was a leader, a king, yet he still witnessed the injustice and departure from divine laws in people's hearts. His indignation was more than personal. It was a reflection of his profound connection with the Lord and his zeal for truth and righteousness. Composing Psalm 14, he delivers a message that still echoes today, revealing that moral corruption is an eternal challenge. David's situation at this time shows us that, even when the world seems mired in deceit and lies, he chooses to place his trust in God, whom he knows is watching. This divine gaze David describes demonstrates his assurance in a higher protector, something that not only sustains and strengthens him, but also inspires him to move forward amid betrayal. And so, David takes us to the heart of the psalm, where deep feelings of helplessness find a support point in faith. At the beginning of Psalm 14, David expresses his profound anguish upon witnessing the lack of faith and morality among those around him. With painful sincerity, he observes how many live without even considering the presence of God. His words reflect a genuine lament, a mixture of sadness and disbelief at the spiritual indifference prevalent in his time. The fools he describes are not merely ignorant. They choose to live without fearing the Lord, disregarding any need for integrity and reverence. It's a strong image David constructs, one that leads us to reflect on the society we live in today. As the psalmist's initial anguish unfolds, he also begins to describe the dangers surrounding him. The enemies he mentions represent forces that seek to subdue him and threaten his cherished faith. He acknowledges that, however threatening the world may be, God is his constant refuge. Here David presents a stark contrast. Even in the midst of suffering, he does not yield to despair. Instead, he turns to God, referring to him as a shield around me, an expression of absolute protection that emerges as solace amid chaos. This contrast between anguish and trust is, in fact, a demonstration of David's unshakable faith. Seeing the evil around him, he doesn't let his hope fade. Instead, he strengthens his belief that God is the source of security and peace that no enemy can shake. This passage of the psalm is an invitation for each of us to find that shield in God, especially when difficulties seem overwhelming. David's strength ultimately lies in knowing that he is never alone, a point that begins to prepare us for the even deeper vision he reveals in the psalm. For David, the vision he conveys in Psalm 14 is clear and direct. He acknowledges the presence of evil and corruption in the world, but also sees the distinction between those who follow God and those who ignore him. David notices that those who reject God live as if they were self-sufficient, disregarding the need for a life aligned with divine values. In his words, we see a David who not only laments the state of things, but also leaves a warning about the consequences of a path without God. The psalmist's view of humanity is not one of condemnation, but of sadness and concern. David observes the lack of understanding of those who follow their own ways, oblivious to the divine wisdom that could transform them. He wants these people to see what they are missing by distancing themselves from the Creator. This desire is not driven by a need for judgment, but by compassion and a wish that each one may find the peace and purpose only God offers. Thus, David leaves us with a reflection on true wisdom. It lies in recognizing our need for God in our lives. David's vision goes beyond mere criticism of human behavior. It is also a declaration of faith and hope. For him, the chaos and confusion of the world are not definitive, for he believes that God sees everything, and in due time, each one will reap what they have sown. David reveals that even in a wayward world, there is a chance of redemption for those who turn to God. His vision becomes an invitation for all to reflect on where they are truly seeking meaning and security, something he will delve into further in his next words. The central message of Psalm 14 is powerful and timeless. Even when the world around us seems overwhelmed by disbelief and injustice, God's presence remains a safe harbor. David observes human frailty and the distance many keep from God, yet instead of yielding to frustration, he finds comfort and hope in the promise that God is always watchful. This psalm reminds us that, amid the darkness, there is a light, a higher force that watches over and cares for those who stand firm in faith. This reflection is a call to reevaluate our own lives and choices. Psalm 14 challenges us to look at our reality and recognize how often we seek temporary solutions instead of fully trusting the Lord. David shows us through his words that it's possible to maintain serenity and peace even when everything around us seems unstable. It's a lesson of absolute trust in God, something that may seem difficult in our daily rush, but that truly gives us the strength to face challenges. David not only observes but teaches us that true peace comes from a life grounded in faith. He understands that this trust is not passive, it's active, a conscious choice to seek God even when we don't see the immediate results we'd like. This teaching, profound and simple, encourages us to walk with courage and calm, knowing that our faith is the shield that protects us in any situation. And thus, the message of Psalm 14 becomes a bridge to understanding what it really means to trust. Psalm 14 offers practical and profound lessons for our daily lives, especially in times of uncertainty and challenges. One of the main lessons is to trust in God even when circumstances surround us with difficulties. David teaches us that regardless of external pressures, there is a peace and security that come only from trusting the Lord. It's an invitation to look at our own lives and identify the areas where we need to surrender our concerns, believing that He takes care of every detail. After all, in moments of anxiety, knowing that God is our refuge can completely transform our perspective. Another point the psalm teaches us is the importance of prayer and faith as pillars for maintaining our serenity. For David, prayer is more than a practice. It is a source of comfort and a way to strengthen his connection with God amid chaos. By praying, we are laying down our burdens and finding consolation in a higher presence. Today, this practice is a way to stay focused and hopeful in a world that often seems uncertain. Taking a daily moment to pray and reflect is a simple action, but can significantly impact our peace of mind. Finally, the lesson of trusting in what is unseen but felt with conviction teaches us to live by faith. Just as David found security in God, we are invited to do the same, seeking confidence that goes beyond logic and what is within our reach. This psalm challenges us to remember that no matter how great the adversity, we can always turn to God. David's teaching continues to inspire us to find peace and security in the divine arms, preparing us to put this wisdom into practice. Throughout Psalm 14, David shows us that bringing our concerns to God is more than an act of faith. It's a way of lightening the load we carry. In a world where we are constantly encouraged to solve everything on our own, this act of surrender can be transformative. Imagine setting aside a few minutes each day to talk to God about what troubles your heart, just as David did. By bringing our daily struggles to Him, we are cultivating a deep relationship, a source of peace that grows stronger each time we open up sincerely. To apply this wisdom in everyday life, A good start is to maintain a routine of prayer and reflection. You can choose a quiet time, perhaps early in the morning or before bed, and speak to God about your anxieties, seek guidance, and express gratitude. Small practices like these, consistent and sincere, strengthen our faith and create a safe space to lay down our hopes and insecurities. Thus, each step toward God is also a step toward a lighter and less lonely life. The application of Psalm 14 also invites us to trust in God's love and protection, especially in difficult times. It is a daily practice, a conscious choice, not to carry the weight alone. Whenever you feel the world crumbling, remember there is a place of peace and security waiting for you in the divine presence. With this trust, we can face any storm with courage and calm, knowing our faith is the anchor that keeps us steady. O eternal God, source of all understanding and peace, I come to you with a sincere heart, seeking your protection and presence amid the challenges of this world. As the psalmist cried out to you in Psalm 14, I too lift my voice for you to be my shield, my unshakable fortress. May I find the path of truth in your light and be kept from all that is not of you. Fill my heart with the certainty that you are with me always, and renew my faith so I may not fear. Lord, strengthen me to resist the temptations the world offers, and open my eyes to perceive where I should seek true wisdom. Like David, may I have the courage not to conform to the deceit and dishonesty around me, but, on the contrary, be a living witness of your goodness and love. Give me understanding so that I may discern what is good, pleasing, and perfect before you. May I never lose sight of you as my ever-present and faithful help. Father, may the peace that only you can give flood my soul and make me walk with security. I surrender all my concerns, fears, and uncertainties to you. In you I trust, and I know that no harm can bring me down, for my life is firmly in your hands. May my heart always be your dwelling, and may my life reflect your presence. Amen. Now that you have dived into the powerful lessons of Psalm 14, the question remains, how will you apply this wisdom in your own life? In which areas do you still hesitate to trust God fully? This psalm challenges us to set aside insecurities and surrender everything into His hands. How about setting aside a moment of your day to talk with God, bringing Him your concerns, and asking for wisdom to face each situation? Take this opportunity to strengthen your faith and find peace amid challenges. If this message touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Keep following our studies to grow even more in knowledge and in your walk with God.